Hi everyone, welcome to Maximum Attack Rallying and to a very special video today. I am joined by a special guest. This week's video is all about American rallying, which is very much in the ascendancy. Obviously, we've got lots of talk of a WRC round in the USA coming up, and there's lots and lots of growth in the ARA and continuing development in the sport. So there is a very exciting new project coming, courtesy of JRD Motorsport, and here to tell me all about it today is Johan Ragnarsson. So welcome, Johan. Thanks for joining me. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you.
Good, thank you very much.
Excited to be on your show.
Thank you. Very, very glad to have you. So maybe before we get into the details of the car itself, maybe you could just tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and about JRD so they can understand what you guys are all about.
Yeah, sure. Well, as you can maybe tell from the name and the accent, I'm originally from Sweden. Been in America since '93. Several of my guys working here are also Swedish, and we have some British guys, and yeah, the entire world is represented here at JRD. So basically, I came over here into the US to basically chase my dream of building cars. It's been a lot of custom cars first in the first part of it, and then a lot of prototype cars for the car industry and that kind of stuff. But in '99, I moved up from Florida to Georgia to join the Panos group of company. Don Panos, they were developing the new Panos Esperanto road car and race cars, and they were looking for talent. So I saw it as a great opportunity, and I moved up here and I started helping out with the development of the road car, the Panos Esperanto. And then a few years into that, Don Panos purchased part of my company. And we became basically what AMG is for Mercedes. We became the in-house tuner of Panos vehicles. Because Panos, as a 50-state legal car manufacturer, they have to basically build what they have certified and tested. And then I was more like the aftermarket end of that. I could do custom update, with a European background and tuning. I knew what kind of went on the the European brands. We put Recaro seats in and Brembo brakes and a lot of that kind of stuff. And that was a really interesting, fun business until we basically ran out of cars, because Panos only built so many cars. And I worked on just about every one of them, I think, to some capacity. And we still do a little bit today. People bring their cars back here for service and stuff, but Panos hasn't actually built any certified road going cars for many, many years. But even after that, we were still the prototype shop, and we became more and more of the prototype shop of Panos. We were almost like the skunk works here, where they took everything, where they were basically, when anything had a deadline, it needed to be done, it came here, and we helped out with a lot of build, both for Panos, but there was also several third-party projects that was done for other manufacturers that were working, with Panos. So a lot of these prototype, and it was crazy. We built complete handmade cars for the only purpose of driving them into a wall. It was crazy, but it was a completely different world. But I learned a lot about how road cars are made, but even race cars. For instance, we built the chassis to the Panos GT2 car that won Le Mans in 2006, I think it was. And then beside this, I wasn't really involved with it so much, but there was, Indy cars being made. Panos owned G-Force Racing. They won Indy 500 3 times. Panos also owned the American Le Mans Series, IMSA. They own Road Atlanta. They own Sebring. They own Mosport. I mean, it was a very exciting company, or a very exciting time to be part of Panos there. And then obviously what happened, inevitably, Don Panos, he was in his later part of his life when he started all this, and unfortunately in 2018 he passed away, and that obviously changed a lot of things here. And the family, I mean, parts of it are still going. Danny, the son, is still kind of, you know, doing a lot of the road car stuff and custom cars, and he's right next door to us. But basically a few years ago we broke JRD out of the Panos group again and made it an independent company. We're still in the same premises we always been here. We have more space now, more people, and we've grown quite a bit. So, but we still have access to a lot of the resources. Some of them are still here. Some of them has come over to us. We still, for instance, the engine development facility that Panos had along Power, they're still up and running. One of the guys took that over, and they're building our engines and doing that. And then a lot of other companies within the Panos or department within Panos broke out just like we did. One was Sebeco, which is this little spec racer Panos had developed, and some guys had taken over that, and they're very successful building race car also here in town. So there's a lot of that going on. So it's still a very good place to be to make race cars.
So you obviously spent a lot of your time since moving to the US in the circuit racing scene, and obviously doing work on road cars. So what made you jump to rallying? Did you have a connection to rallying before you moved to the US? Was it something that you've always been interested in?
Being Sweden, it's in our DNA. So I wouldn't call myself a rally driver, but I was attempting to drive a rally car somewhere back in the 80s. And that made me a very good mechanic because I broke a lot of stuff. Not on purpose, but just happened to be that way, especially building new body shells. And then when I realized that wasn't really my thing, I tried my hands at being a co-driver. And that was, you know, back then in the 80s in Sweden, we didn't really have pace notes. The co-driver was more or less passenger on the special stages, and you just made sure you didn't get lost or on the transit, and you know, kept the driver in check when we needed to check in and stuff. So it was pretty easy to be a co-driver back then. I probably could not be a co-driver. I know I couldn't be a co-driver now, but I probably couldn't have been a real co-driver then either. Because, you know, that's a skill set that is
yeah, absolutely,
very I'm very impressed by what they do, and the you know, the chemistry that must exist in the car to be able to do that, and it's just amazing for me to just watch that. But anyway, yeah, so I did that, and obviously I like to build rally cars back then, but then, you know, road cars were pretty cool too, and that kind of took over a little bit. But then as I came over here, I feel like I'd done the whole thing with road cars. I'd done the whole thing with race cars, Le Mans and all that, and so then, you know, when rally started growing here more and more in the US, and we kind of got involved with a local team here, and it just came natural. And now I can apply everything I've learned and all the equipment we have acquired over the years, and all the resources we have here. And I mean, just the guys I'm working with, it's absolutely amazing. I mean, I'm working with guys we have one guy here who's done 15 Le Mans. Wow. One guy is 16 Daytona 24 hours. These guys are, they've done it all. But so it's just a lot of really good talent here. Why not apply that to
how have they found the switch moving from, you know, endurance racing, sports car racing, single seaters? How have they found transitioning into rally?
Well, I think really, and I'm not going to generalize this, but something I find in circuit racing guys, they have like a secret desire to work on rally cars. because they all, they all come here and they said, Le Mans, been there, done that. And Indy 500, been there, done that. A lot of that. But rally, that is just so freaking insane. I've never done it, but I do want to do it. And the drivers, when I talk to the drivers here, I'm like, would you ever consider driving a rally car? Some of them, oh heck yeah, that I would really love to do that. And some of them like, oh no, I would never do that. Those guys are crazy. I could never do that kind of stuff. So I have that, but everybody is, and it is kind of an interesting way of looking at, in circuit racing, everything is down to precision. I mean, we need to change the ride height 2 millimeter, and in rally it's like, we need to put the wheel back on because it fell off. It's like, or get the sledgehammer. No, I mean, but there's still a lot of precision going on there, but it has to be a very, very practical precision. If it has to be, and it's. I see that as a great challenge to an engineer. The fact that you have to build something that is it has to be strong. Well, anybody can build a strong car. It just become very heavy. Well, then you have to be light. Okay, now it's getting difficult. And then it has to be built, within the budget that is kind of existing for these type of cars. It's not $1 million car. And it's not like, no, you got to build it, for the market. And that is like an amazing challenge. And the car is going to be able to fly sideways through the air.
I think it's the ultimate compromise formula in a way, isn't it, rallying? There's so many factors, as you say. Cost is budget is not unlimited like it is in Formula One or sports cars, for example. There's lots of factors you have to balance against each other. I mean, I was looking through your website. You've been involved with some significant cars in the US rally scene. Seamus Burke's Escort, for example. And you've worked a lot with Mitsubishi Evolutions. So what? Just getting onto this project, what made you decide that now was kind of the time? You want to develop this Rally 2 type car specifically for the US market. What made you decide that now was the time to take that leap from building the cars that you've been building to, okay, let's build a car just for the American scene?
So in America here, we've basically been running what I refer to as Group N plus cars for many years. It's like Evos and Subarus that was for years. There were companies and the factory even developing parts for these cars, and they were almost made to be turned into rally cars for a while there. Unfortunately, it's not like that anymore. Group N is long gone, and now Rally 3 instead, and which means it gets very difficult to convert a modern road car into a proper rally car. Just the electronics itself makes it. I mean, you pull a fuse out of one of those things and the car won't go in reverse. I mean, it's like, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. And it's just very difficult, especially for small teams to take on that challenge. And they have everything, even the drivetrain is controlled very much by electronics. And then there's just not any cars anymore that are suitable for it. Cars are getting bigger, which make them obviously less suitable and heavier and bigger, and then it's just not as easy as it used to be. Then you have the thing with the Rally 2 cars, which I love. I mean, I think that's the best thing that ever been invented is the Rally 2 cars. I mean, the numbers show it. And the problem is that they're difficult and complicated to import and get in here to the US permanently. And that has kind of put a little bit of a strain here on American rally market. There are plenty of cars for grassroots guys. I mean, there are a lot of the cars we run over in Sweden, like in the lower classes, the Golfs and the older Subarus and those kind of cars. A lot of older BMWs and that's awesome. And some pretty new ones pretty nice ones on the two-wheel drive version. You mentioned Seamus Burke's Ford Escort we built back in 2017, I think, where we took, a completely an old Mark II Escort and gutted it and basically put everything, a modern suspension in it, and we tried to do it with all modern Ford parts to kind of make it a tribute to the old Mark II, but using all modern technology and especially Ford stuff. And it's won, I think, 3 national championships here with Seamus. I mean, and it's been great to work with the Burke guys and Martin Brady and all these guys. I mean, it's been so fun, but it came to a point where it took so much time to run a team on the level when you have to do a full season. So we just kind of felt like we need to concentrate on what we're really good at, which is building cars, not necessarily running cars. We had played a little bit with the ideas of making custom suspension, more like a Rally 2 car or even WRC car. We had very long suspension travel. We made our own. We made basically like a kit that we felt we could adapt to any cars. And the issue with that was the adaptation of the kit was was pretty straightforward, but the actual connecting the dots later became so much work. So we thought, hey, maybe we should concentrate on one car model, and maybe we should do it as an alternative to a Rally 2 car, because that's where ARA wanted to go with this. So I approached ARA with this idea, and it took a little while for us to convince them that this would actually be a good idea. So, but actually they agreed with us. We have to do something here because we need more cars, more top level cars here in this country.
Yeah, I think it's been a challenge, hasn't it, in the US? I think for a while it looked like the ARA was growing. Obviously, you've got super involvement, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think the open class cars have reached such a level, haven't they, that obviously for anyone to compete, we had Barry McKenna bringing a Fiesta WRC and things like that.
Yeah.
It's become a bit of a challenge, hasn't it? And as you say, it's very difficult to import a Rally 2 car. Yeah. So that has left the championship in a slightly tricky position, hasn't it? So
yeah, it has, and something's got to happen there, and we kind of saw the opportunity there. So I presented them with this. So then to see what is the actual ARC2 car. Well, we call it ARC2 because it's the American Rally 2 car or Rally Class 2 car. Rally Car 2, you'd say. And so we looked at it and say, those are the most, spectacular cars, I think, built for the masses, other than real WRC. And so we looked at them and said, what makes them so popular, spectacular, both among spectators and drivers and team, is the fact that, well, first of all, they look really cool. They are very capable and very spectacular. They can take on the big jumps. They can, and they have enough power to go really fast. And then the fact that they are, become so, private team can actually own them or run them. So we said, we look at that and we take everything out of that actually makes them what they are. And then we try to get rid of everything that just add to the cost, but not actually that doesn't take away the spectacle of them, both for the drivers and for the spectators. So basically, since we're not really FIA here, our idea was to basically take an open class American car, and then we put some certain limitations on it to more be like a Rally 2 car. One was suspension travel, the other one was like, well, those they only have 5 gears, and a couple of other things to kind of reel them in a little bit. But then the most important thing is when it comes to is the engine. And I looked at that and I said, again, remember that this is a spec car. We're not going up against a bunch of other manufacturers. So I said, why don't we do a spec engine? And instead of taking an engine that has, let's say, 300 horsepower from the road car, and then put a restrictor on it, and then have to spend, let's say, $40,000 on that engine to bring it back to where it was when we started. I mean, that's like, doesn't make any kind of sense. So I approached ARA with this idea, and they were like, oh, God, oh. Let's build a spec engine. And we be supplied by a third party with a locked ECU and tamper sealed mechanics on it, and we tune it to follow the torque curve on an actual Rally 2 car.
Okay.
So basically, the engine is not a 1600cc engine. It's not going to have a restrictor. It's actually a 2-liter engine, but the torque curve will be, the engine will be mapped to follow the torque curve of the ARC2 car, so that it will still have the same output, if you will, but it will be a fraction of the price.
Yeah, and that's just that's is that like a production car engine that it's based from?
Yeah, basically we have to do some modifications to it to make it work, especially on the electronic side, but even on some of the mechanical side. But basically it's going to be from a company in Sweden, actually, called ARA.
Okay.
And a number nobody ever has heard of. But there's some clues to it here. If you have followed rallycross a little bit, there is on Johan Kristoffersson's car and suit nowadays, it says horse powertrain. Well, it's those guys. It's that group of...
Yeah, I've heard of horse powertrain, yeah. Yeah,
so basically what we're doing is derived from that same program. And what ARA is more like the Swedish division of this company, and it is the former Volvo powertrain in Skövde, Sweden. So this is actually going to be it's an ARA engine, but it used to be a Volvo engine from a 60. I think it's called S60 Polestar something.
Okay.
It has a lot of power, over 350 horsepower stock.
Wow.
We're taking that engine, that's where it had in one of their models, and we're taking that engine and we're detuning it, because obviously a Rally 2 car is around 290 horsepower, around 400 Newton meter, and so we're bringing it down there, not just on overall output, but actually at every RPM, basically. So it's not, because we really don't want to build a car here that's just going to blow the doors off a Rally 2 car. That's not our job. If we do that, we have to a degree failed. But what we're building is something that should be equivalent, but it should be cheaper to buy, cheaper to own. It should be built here in America, based on an American car, and it can be serviced out of America. That's the idea. And it should be every bit as spectacular and fun to watch and fun to drive as a Rally 2 car. That has been our motto. So
just out of interest, so in terms, you've talked a lot about speccing the engine and mapping the engine to follow that torque curve. So is has that process been throughout the car? So how have you done the comparison between a Rally 2 car? Have you benchmarked any Rally 2 cars, or how closely have you looked at those cars in terms of the design and how has that influenced what you're doing?
Yes. So there's another company involved in this from Sweden also, and the guys in this company, this is actually a big company that worked with OE and calibration. I think they're actually the former Saab electronics department that wrote all the calibration for the Saab road cars. And a lot of the guys from a company called Troll Speed, which built a lot of rallycross engines in the past, they're at that company. They're working on an OE level now, but they have a motorsport performance division, and they're going to be our partner in when it comes to the actual calibration of the engines. So they have a lot of motorsport experience, these guys, and they have a very impressive lab where they run all the engines and all that. So they're going to be in charge of that part of it. And so basically they will certify that each engine that comes out of there follow this particular torque curve that obviously being established over there. And yes, we do have benchmark engines to compare against, because again, we're not trying to be better than them, we're trying to be the same. And and that's the whole idea. And they will basically certify that each engine that's being delivered from there with the seals and with the locked ECU, that not even we can, I can't even go in and change anything in the ECU. It is going to be built exactly to those specs. We will have a way where we can go in, or I should say the team will have a way where they can go in and look at, they can have logging data, they can go in and look at certain things, but they can't go in and change stuff.
Mapping will all be fixed. Yeah,
exactly. And the scrutineers here in America, the tech guys, they can basically plug into it on a scan tool. They can see that nothing has been tampered with. They can also download a log that is a little bit goes a little bit deeper in, where they can see a lot of parameters and make sure everything is where it's supposed to be and all that. And so they can, at any time plug into the car and just get that out of it. But so the idea here going forward is that as we get a little more cars out on the stages here, our plan is to be at each event with basically a big service truck where we have all the parts for these cars. The car is already built in a way where a lot of components are the same left to right, back to forth. It's like the same upright in all four corners, the same strut or damper in all four corners, maybe with different clicks and settings, but they're all the same hardware. And so you need a very limited parts spares package with you, and then we will be there even having complete engines with us, because obviously it's a spec engine where people can't dig into their own engine, and what happens if it breaks? Well, you're going to have to get another engine from us. We basically going to exchange. So we send you a different one, and then it goes from there. So that is kind of our plan. We really, I mean, Dr. Panos had a quote when he started the American Le Mans series, and that was for the people. And that kind of resonated with me, because that's really what it comes down to. I mean, sure, the rally cars are really fun for engineers and the people, but it's not really about us. It's about the spectators. It's about the drivers and the crew that are out there doing this. And we'd like to make their life as simple as possible. And that's what this car is supposed to be. It's supposed to be like a Rally 2 car for the people.
Okay. It sounds really interesting. So you mentioned a little while ago that you'd already developed a kind of spec suspension system for other cars. So is that have you carried that into this project, or have you redesigned that a little bit for the specifics?
Yeah, it's been redesigned. We basically taken another crack at the whole thing, basically, and the geometry has been made a little bit better, maybe. We don't have exactly as long. I mean, those cars had 325 millimeter, 13 inches of suspension, or actually wheel travel out at the wheel, but we don't really have that much. I think we're going to be limited at around 275 now, so that made it a little bit easier, actually. And then those last 2 inches are very expensive to make, but I mean, imagine CV axles and suspension joints and stuff. So we have made something. It's a little bit stronger, maybe. I think it's a little bit better. We're still going to be working with Öhlins on that part of it, and we're going to be working with PFC, Performance Friction, industry on the brakes. They've been big. They've been supporting us on the road racing side from the very beginning, basically. And they are actually probably getting more and more interested in rally, I should say. So we looking forward to working with them, or keep working with them, I should say. And then other companies that I could mention that is part of it. PWRs, I'm going to make our radiators and intercoolers, really good guys. And they do a lot of stuff for the WRC cars and Rally 2 cars also. And then the car itself, we haven't really talked so much about. The body shell is going to be from a Chevrolet Sonic. And people might ask, why in the heck did you pick a Sonic of all cars? And it's actually kind of funny. But, well, first of all, they're very readily available here. There are plenty of them. And they're cheap. You can find them, and they haven't been, since we weren't really looking for any manufacturing support. There was no point of trying to pick, a car that was currently being manufactured. Sonic, they quit making it in 2020, but there are plenty of them out there. So that was mainly that. But then there was another big reason. I should say also the wheelbase is. And the size of it is pretty damn good for being a rally car with 100 inches or so with wheelbase. So it worked out with that. And then we have GM has been nice enough to give us CAD of the entire car, the Sonic. That helps a lot when you design a project like this. Of course, we have ability to scan entire car bodies and entire cars and all that, and so it's not an issue. But a scan is never as good as manufacturing CAD, where we can rely on each hole is where it says it is, and we can make parts that actually fit.
And it's time as well, I guess, isn't it? It's
it is. It costs a lot of money to get proper. Yeah, it's just so we've been very good and been given a lot of the files, and obviously ARA has been very good helping us with that. So that's what it's going to be, but it's basically only the body shell itself. Obviously, we're developing our own body kit for it within the rules of Rally 2, for that, and then other than that,
do you think this just popped into my head? Do you think that concept of that Chevrolet body shell is something that you'd stick to, or do you think it's possible? If you've got a spec engine and a spec suspension system, could you see it going down the route of the AP4 cars in Australia? Where you can have effectively a kit that you can build into any body shell that's the right kind of dimensions.
Yeah, we have talked about that. It is on our radar, and I have talked to some capable other rally manufacturing outfits here in the US, but even in other part of the country, because we have actually got interest from Canada, from South America, even from Europe, where they run stuff that's not necessarily fall under the FIA spec. And that surprised me a little bit, actually. But so we're definitely interested in that. We could provide a spec drivetrain and suspension, and then we would obviously have to provide the engineering support. That obviously it's only as good as how it's being welded in,
of course.
Because otherwise it wouldn't work at all. And then we could set somebody else up, and we could provide them with the parts and stuff, and they could then pick a different shell and do it. I'm all for that. That would be interesting. But obviously it takes I don't think it's anything that people should be doing in their own garage. But I think there are certainly many capable, like a small rally build shop that, might not have the engineering capacity that we have, but they're certainly capable of building the cars. So that is definitely an interest or on our radar. I would also say, like, what could happen is, you never know, but if a car manufacturer come along and say, we want you to take all you have and basically we give you a body shell and you put it all in that. I mean, we wouldn't be adverse to that either. But
yeah, and I think it could be an interesting way to bring manufacturers in, as you said. You know, it's the cars aren't available like they used to be, are they? We used to have Subarus and Mitsubishis, and all these cars were common, but they're not now. So I think you know, I think where Rally 2 has been so successful is that it's allowed manufacturers to participate without having the road car. And I know we're both big fans of Rally 2 as a format. So I think it gives people options. So if you've got someone who wants to get more involved, that doesn't have the car, that works off the shelf, it could help to bring them in.
I don't know, because it was kind of tried a while back, with the ARC original. And they tried that, and there were some cars built, but it didn't really. I think what happened was that people that were contemplating it said, hey, I might as well buy a Rally 2 car then. Because
I think I think in Europe that is
because it was so much work,
concept, isn't it?
It is a lot of work to build a rally car, and to get the suspension and all that in. I mean, that's it's a big thing, but there's so much. I mean, the devil is in the detail. You got to develop your own body kit. You got to. I mean, there's a lot of. You got to connect the dots, basically. But
I think I was just going to say, I think in Europe that concept maybe isn't so suitable, because, as you said, I think people will just jump straight to a Rally 2 car, won't they? Because it's available. All of them are manufactured in Europe, so the parts are all there, and it's quite simple to run a Rally 2 car in Europe. Whereas if you're in North America, South America, places like that, or even Australasia, you can't necessarily wait 2-3 weeks for the parts to come in, or you've got difficulties importing the cars and things. So that's where this slightly different approach might
and then as years went on, and there were so many back then R5 cars being built, and then the Rally 2 cars, obviously there became a big used car market where you could up a gently used or a good, well maintained old R5 car, and then maybe even have it upgraded and stuff, and that could be an alternative, because then there are parts available and stuff like that. As if you build a custom, whatever it might be, then you have that thing, body panels and stuff like that you're going to go through. So So
one thing,
but that is an interesting concept, and I'm open to it.
I think one thing that strikes me now, I think when I lived in the UK, it's different, isn't it? Because all of the top rally cars, all of the FIA rally cars are based on road cars that you can buy. But when you move out of Europe, as I'm sure you see in the US, and it's certainly the same where I am in the Middle East, all of the cars that are in the WRC right now, all of the FIA homologated cars, you can't actually buy them. You can't buy a Fiesta or a Ford Puma in the US, can you? So I think it makes those cars slightly oddly positioned in a way, because they're not really very relevant to the people in that country.
Right. So, I could say in America, none of the Rally 2 cars, the road-going version of the Rally 2 car is actually available here. None of them. I mean, even the cars that are being sold here, like the Hyundai and the Toyota, there's no Toyota Yaris here. There's no anymore. There are no i20 Hyundais. Here, even if the brand exists here, and Ford, there's no Ford Fiestas anymore. So in a sense, that doesn't help. So, but I think to a degree, the spectators don't really care so much about that part. I mean, for a manufacturer to get involved, of course it matters. It needs to be a car that they sell ultimately. But or even a brand that's sold here, like Peugeot, Citroën, and some of those Skoda. They're not even, the
Yeah.
brand itself is not even available here, so it's not even branding at that point. But I think the spectators, I don't think they care so much about. They want to see a little bit of variety, yes, and they want
Yeah.
cars to sound a little bit different, maybe, but it's not really. I do like though that every now and then we did see we saw a really nice Skoda here at the latest 100 Acre Woods that been brought in, the latest spec from Europe, and was, well, it's a lot of fun to see. I've seen them before, but for the Americans to see how nice they
I
really
think
are.
it's good to see those cars, isn't it? But I think, as you say, for a lot of spectators, it probably doesn't matter too much. And I think more importantly, I think for the drivers, it's having access to cars, isn't it? They need access
I think what it does though, it gives them serious some legitimacy, because one thing we had here happening in sports car racing, and that's why I think one of the reasons Don got involved in it was we had a spec here we called WSC, World Sports Car Racing, that was very different from what they ran over in Europe. Over there, they ran the GT cars, which was McLaren F1 and the Mercedes CLK GTR and Panos. We had a Panos GTR back then, and even Ferrari F40 was running here. They ran, the World Sports Car, and everybody knew here in America that the GT1 cars, or what I think they were called back then, were actually closer related, even though they weren't necessarily the road car you buy at your dealership, but there were actually road-going versions of them. You had to make one for you to be allowed to race, and that people, just like in rally, there is something exciting about that, the fact that it is derived from a road-going or road-approved cars, and then they were also faster than the WSC cars. So Don, at the very beginning when he started this, they brought those cars over here to the US to run, combined with the WSC. And that was, I think they ran different categories, but they ran on the same track in Sebring. And that was something, I think the American, that's when it really became big here in America, because then the Americans saw those are the real European cars that we only have been able to see on YouTube. They're actually here on American soil. We actually get to see them in the flesh, and they blow the doors off. Well, they didn't have any doors. They'd already been blown off, the WSC cars. And shortly after that, the whole new spec came in with that when they all became the LMP cars instead, and Don started the American Le Mans series. Well, the whole idea was to bring the European racing over here. All of a sudden, the American road racing was legit, because it was the same cars. Audi was over here running with their car. Peugeot was over here, just as, basically shaking their cars down. And, Audi did it, so Peugeot had to do it also to just get the mileage. And all of them came over here, and all the GT cars that came, Aston Martin, Porsche, BMW, all of them, and they're still here. It's still legit, and that. So I think it's good with some European cars here, because it gives the whole series some legitimacy. I think that's good.
Yeah, I think it does. But I think also it's nice. I think it will be nice to have homegrown cars. I think for me, as an outsider looking at, one of the appealing things about the American rally scene is that it's a bit more. There's a bit more variety, and it's certainly at club level. You've got people building all kinds of different cars, and I think for me it's nice to see different approaches and different ways of doing things. That I think Europe is very FIA orientated, isn't it?
I have to say, America, the rule set they're running after here in America is amazing. The open two-wheel drive and the open four-wheel drive is just an engineer's dream, because you basically get to build your own WRC car. And I talked to my friends back home in Sweden, and they have some national CA classes there where they can build their own two-wheel drive cars and stuff. They can't build their own four-wheel drive cars. But even in those two-wheel drive cars, they're not allowed to use whatever upright they want, and it really limits what you can do, and the suspension geometry and stuff. And I mean, I understand why they're doing it, but they're very jealous of us over here, where we can build a car like that. Seamus Burke Ford Escort. I mean, that car is just amazing.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's been one of the most popular car in recent years in America. That car, and it's fast, it's loud, it's it's just an awesome. Everybody just loves it. I know every time I'm out visiting, and we get to speak to some spectators, and they ask what kind of cars have you done in the past, and I'm like, well, have you seen Seamus Burke's Escort? And they're like, oh, you built that? and I'm like, yeah, we did. And everybody's like, wow, that is the coolest car. And and then obviously it helps so much with Seamus Burke being such a nice guy, and just he's such a great ambassador for rally here in America. He's been in it since since rally was introduced here. It's just awesome to see him.
Do you think that will continue? Do you think, obviously with the WRC hopefully coming to the US, we'll probably see more Rally 2 cars and things over there, and that might influence the direction. Do you think that those open class cars will continue? Obviously the Subaru right now has a big advantage in the open four-wheel drive, or do you think they'll keep trying to pull that back a little bit to try and take things more? I think
so, because I mean, basically in the open class, I mean, what I hear from I should say our ARC2 car is going to race in the RC2 class here. So that's a big thing, and that was obviously something that was a big hurdle to get over. But because one of the things, if you run open class, well, I mean, the first thing you have to do is you're going to be third at best.
Yeah,
I mean, that's it. And and even if there are some European WRC derived cars over here, you're gonna have a hard time with those. And like I'm thinking Barry Kenneth, and then Ken Block was running here, and you just can't touch them. And then obviously now with Subaru running a third car, I mean, it's just blistering fast. It's tough for a privateer to make something that can go up against them, and I mean, as it should be. Otherwise, something is wrong. But so you're going to be the best of the rest, basically. And to some drivers, it's not like they want to feel like they can, compete for the top step on the podium. And I think this will, well, maybe give them a possibility to do that. Maybe not overall, but at least in class.
Yeah, but I think maybe we will. I don't know, maybe I'm speculating, I know. Maybe we will see the regulation shift to try and bring those open cars a little bit closer. I know they did that a few years ago, didn't they? They tried to slow them down a little bit.
But then it's also this, they had some pretty good drivers.
And of course.
I remember I was at a meeting many years ago, and it was at a meeting, and was all about trying to reel in Subaru. And the one thing somebody said, I can't remember who, but he said, something you got to remember here, that David Higgins, he is one heck of a driver. If you took turbo off completely on his car, he would still have a pretty good chance of winning. So you know what we're dealing with here. I'm not knocking your other drivers, but I mean, he is not in that car because he's a lousy driver. He is a very good driver, and that's something you kind of So I think that, I mean, it might always be hard to beat the Subarus, but I don't know. They're coming with a pretty interesting car now to the Olympus. I guess Travis is going to drive
limited all-wheel drive car.
It's going to be more like back to basically a Group N plus type of car, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, you're still allowed to have sequential and stuff in it, and more power than it, but it will be more like a Group N plus car than what the open class cars are they run now. It is a pretty interesting class, but it's even there. It's tough to build. I mean, you would have to build on a a new Subaru, and it's not going to be a very cheap build
Yeah,
either.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And it's a big, quite heavy car these days, isn't it? You know, it's not
yeah,
like
it is, and it's just and it's the one of the things also that I would say the reason why we picked the Sonic is it's you can buy one of those here for a few $1,000s. What we were looking at, like, should we do a Mini Cooper, for instance? Well, then the problem with that is then the car itself is very expensive, and the only reason we're buying it's to get the shell, and
yeah,
it's just like, is it really worth it to maybe? I mean, okay, a Mini Cooper. I mean, sure, you could buy used ones, but we were thinking like, okay, let's say now we got a deal with a car manufacturer, and we based it on their car, but then people would have to go and buy their car to basically start up, and that might be a $40,000 car,
yeah,
and that wouldn't benefit what we're trying to do here, really. It would benefit the manufacturer. It maybe would benefit us a little bit, but unless we could basically subsidize the price of our car with the amount of, well, I suppose if they gave us body shells, then that would be, it would be moot at that point. But I mean, otherwise we're going backwards.
yeah. There's not many manufacturers that are giving away body shells anymore, is
No,
there?
exactly, and that are actually, actual body. I mean, 17-digit VIN number body shell, like a car with a title, basically,
Yeah,
and just, I mean, it technically have to start from an actual car. I don't think they can just give away your body shell in that sense. I don't know.
yeah.
We probably
Okay,
have to
wait.
start.
It's definitely a really exciting project, and
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to seeing more and seeing the car testing. I think one thing we haven't touched on is I know you've had some involvement with Marcus Gronholm as a test driver.
Yeah.
I know you're not
Yes.
at the point of him sitting in a car yet, but has he had so much involvement so far, or is he coming on stream once the car's up and running?
Well, he has been involved, and he has a network of people in high places. He's been able to definitely set us up with some suppliers. We've been able to, in some cases, get second opinions on our designs from some engineers. And and it's been very helpful in that sense so far. And he has also, they run a Skoda in the Finnish Championship, so sometimes when we need some measurements and dimension, there was one, for instance, I asked him, like, the driver visibility is a thing, and I wanted to be as good or better than a Rally 2 car. So I asked Niklas Gernholm, who is driving the car, sit in your driver's seat the way you sit when you drive. Put something have Marcus put something on the ground in front of the car, and then keep moving it closer to the car until you can't see it anymore, and then tell me how far in front of the car is that. And then based on that, I could, in my simulation, then I could draw a line and make sure the driver is sitting in a position where he can actually have the same visibility and stuff, and that basically positions the driver, and then you have to build the car around that. So stuff like that he's been very good at. And then when it comes to actually, well, I mean, his real value is going to come in when it comes to driving the car, shaking the car down, or just going and do the driver development. And we will obviously have engineers coming in from our partners, the electronic guy, suspension guys, and all that to work with us on that. And but he will also give when Marcus said that the car is good, I mean, it will give the whole car legitimacy. And
Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah.
because,
It's a big,
you know,
big
when
boost, isn't it?
obviously he's driven a lot of different cars, but he also obviously know what a car needs to be and need to do what you're asking a rally car to do nowadays. So that will be good, and you know, it will feel very good to me to be able to tell people that that is buying the car or that's looking to buy the car that it has a Marcus Gernholm stamp of approval on it, and you know, then you know that make me feel better about what I'm
Yeah,
selling. I take
if
people's
Marcus says
money.
you've done a good job, then you know you've done a good job.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so that's important to me, and you know, so he will be with us at some of the early events. I'm not going to say when that will be,
No, of course,
but
of course.
but the he will maybe do some exhibition runs. I don't think he will run like a full rally on like competitively. He might do like maybe he'll do a course opening car.
Yeah.
Maybe he will run a few stages in, you know, on Saturday, some on Friday, some on Saturdays to kind of show the car off and stuff like that. But then, you know, I think chances are bigger you will see Niklas going home actually driving the car competitively here.
Okay, so that would be very interesting, wouldn't it? 'Cause he's
Yeah.
an up and coming
Well,
driver, and that will give you a very good
yeah.
indication of where the car's, where the
So
car is.
we will, you know, but then we also have we realize if the car does really well with Marcus sitting in it, everybody's going to say, well, just because Marcus is driving it. So we're going to need to get some other drivers in it as well that you know, that are not necessarily two-time world champions, but you know, has you know, mid-pack or good average drivers that, you know, kind of represent the customers would be selling to drive the cars here and to help promote it and stuff.
Yeah. Have you had people reaching out to you about the car since you've started, to talk about it?
Yes, we have several, and right now we're not actually taking real orders. We basically, you can, you know, reach out to us and say, hey, I want to spot in the line, and because we don't really want to start making more cars until we know the first one works.
Yeah,
We've
of
done
course.
that mistake many times here on race cars where you know, somebody ordered 4 race cars and we build all 4 of them, and then we realize, oh crap, we got to change something, and then you have 4 cars to change versus 1. So that's something. And then, but yes, we've had a lot of interest, not just from America, but even from, you know, Canada and South America at this point.
Yeah, well,
So,
I guess those countries find themselves in a similar position to the States, don't they? You know, there's not the
yeah.
supply of Rally 2 type cars, and there's not the supply of Subarus and things that there once was to build, lower category cars. And there's a bit of a gap.
I mean, I don't actually know too much about if they have the same issues, how easy it is to get the Rally 2 cars into certain countries. But, you know, hey, I would be very interested in supplying them and talking to sanctioning bodies of other countries of making this car an option, even if it means to have it locally built with, that would be built in the country it will race, but with our components in it. Yeah, I mean, I could be interested in that.
Yeah,
But
and then again, I suppose you give them the option then, I suppose, of if they don't have to use the same chassis, do they? If there's a chassis that's better suited
no,
to
I mean,
that
obviously
market.
it would be easier for them if they
Of course,
did.
yeah.
Because, I mean, the Sonic is a world car. It is, when it was made, it was available in all countries, basically. It might be called, I think it's called a Holden, something in Australia.
Yeah.
I know in Sweden it's called a Chevrolet Aveo. And there was, I don't know if it's something else in Asia. Or maybe it was a Daewoo or something. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I think that's one of the challenges that we've got now, isn't it? Is that those global cars have we seem to have gone away from that a little bit, don't they? Manufacturers of, you know, Fiesta was a global car, but then stopped being a global car again. And so I think that's, you know, that's
yeah. And I don't know
maybe a
if
bit of a challenge.
Puma is or not. I mean, if how close the relationship is between that one and, let's say, the little, I don't know what the little Ford is called here. But yeah, I don't know. So I mean,
yeah, it's exciting times, isn't it? I think it's a really interesting project, and I think it's something that can help push rallying in the States forward. I know there's, you know, a lot going on with, you know, behind the scenes in terms of trying to grow the championship. So I think this is a significant step towards giving people more options, isn't it? And more ways to be competitive, and hopefully see, you know, bigger fields, you know, of spectacular cars, you know, at the front.
Yeah. I do, however, have one more thing.
Okay, go.
To tell you. The question everybody's asking is the cost of the car.
Okay, the cost.
Yeah. So it's going to be sold or offered in the base version. I haven't quite figured out what is included in the base version or not, because obviously you can outfit the car indefinitely, you know, with different things. But the base version of the car, ready to race in gravel spec, is going to be $220,000 US.
Okay.
Compared to,
yeah, it's got to be less than a Rally 2 car, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the Rally, I can tell you that a Rally 2 Yaris cost €330,000. Yeah, so that's basically where they are if you buy a new one. And obviously you could find it, maybe a used R5 car or Rally 2 car even for less than this, but then you have to deal with you know, the import stuff and all that. But then the thing is that what's going to happen here when we get our cars out, there will be used ARC2 cars here, hopefully very soon, that people can pick up here, and it can be passed down, you know, to further down into the you know, the grassroots guys and the privateers, and so that's obviously what's going to happen here also. So this is tough, you know. We're trying to build a car that's basically a Rally 2 car, and but we're not subsidized by a manufacturer. Like the development is a lot of those cars. We have to basically recover all our development cost on these ones, and it's going to be tough, but we believe in it. And you know, my heart is in rally, and I want to just I saw the interview with Lance where he said I want to give this back to the rally community, what he's doing now. And I feel the same. I mean, I want this to work. Of course, we've got to make a living doing it, but this is really something we want to do. We want to take everything we learned and all the resources and fancy equipment and tools and gadgets we have here and the engineers we have, and we want to do this for rally here in America, because it's giving me.
I think that's really one of the exciting things about the US scene right now is I think there's been a lot of growth, hasn't there, over the last few years, but I think there's so much energy in taking the next step, you know, having that world championship round, but also, you know, growing their ARA, making it more accessible, getting more people involved, and taking it to the next level. Yeah. I think there's a lot of enthusiasm.
And a lot of this is also the reason why the car is going to be basically a regionally homologated car. That's going to have so they will have basically like a Rally 2 car. Will have homologation papers that we will issue that will need to be presented to Doug Nagy at ARA at Tech, and you have to show that the car actually have our uprights and suspension and whatever we have, so to speak, homologated with the ARA. And so, and then there will be a lot of stuff that we don't really care about, that team can pick themselves, especially when it comes to like seats and belts and, and some other gadgets that we will work with them. But for the most part, it will be homologated.
Great. Well, I'm really excited.
Again, for us to have a chance to, recover all the money we're putting into this right now.
Well, they always say if you want to make a small fortune in motorsport, start with a big one.
Yeah, I'm going to pretend I didn't hear that.
Let's wrap things up. I'm going to ask you a few quick little questions that are not related to your project, as exciting as it is. But I like to, if I have a guest, I like to ask them a few little questions. So they're quick fire. Who is your favourite rally driver?
Marcus Grönholm, of course.
You have to say that.
and after that, I would have to say Oliver Solberg. Because he's been here. We know him. Great.
Yeah, he did a little bit in the US, didn't he?
Yeah. And it's just such a great family. Just love Oliver, and I know he's, the entire Wolfridson clan up there in Värmland, and obviously the Solberg. So yeah, definitely.
Okay. Favorite rally?
Finland.
Okay.
Favorite rally? I've been to it many times, and it's the weather there tends to be a little bit nicer than at the Swedish rally. But I've been to the Swedish rally many times also. But it's cold.
Okay. Favorite rally car?
Ooh.
And you're not allowed to say your own car.
No, of course not. I would say I did like, my first rally car was a Fiat 131 Abarth.
Oh, wow.
No,
very nice.
Let me take that back. That was my dream. But that would be my dream car. My first car was a Fiat 131, not Abarth, the Mirafiori. But I always liked those Fiats. But I mean, I would have to say in 86, I think it was, I was at the Swedish rally, and I saw the last hooray of the Group B car, and the Lancia Delta S4, especially with Henry Toivonen driving it. Oh my God. That was something else. I mean, the sounds that thing was making, and hopping and popping, and fire shooting out of, and then just the speed. I mean, God, that was something to see. And when, obviously, with the iconic Martini Racing livery.
Yeah.
Okay,
so you said that you decided that you weren't good enough to be a driver, but if you could drive one stage in one car, what do you think it would be? Or you could do one rally if you prefer, but one rally in one car.
There's a follow-up question for that from me. Do I have to pay for it if I crash it?
No.
Okay.
No, someone else is paying the bill. Marcus Grönholm has offered to pay the bill for you.
Okay, all right. Well, I need to keep my relationship with him good. So, I mean, I couldn't take... You know what? I would probably prefer to say, Marcus, how about you drive the car and I'll ride with you? Because to me, I couldn't even come close to get, the performance out of most rally cars. And so, I would actually opt to ride with somebody. And it doesn't necessarily even have to be Marcus, but it's just, I have some favorite videos of some of my comrades back home, some of my buddies back home that, like there's this guy in Sweden that I really enjoy. He has a really cool YouTube channel. You should have him on your show, Tim Liljegren.
Okay.
In a yellow Volvo 240. Amazing. I mean, obviously there is a lot of really good Volvo driver, and everybody's going to say there are several that are better than he is. That's fine. But I just watch his in-car, and they're just so funny to see. And then, also a guy like Patrick Flodin in his in-car. I mean, those guys are so good at driving, but yet so down to earth, and just, I mean, like, I'm almost thinking like when they do the interviews at the end of the stage and they're talking, just like Marcus, they're just like any other guy. And I'm like, do you even realize how much we look up to you? Do you realize what kind of an idol you really are to people like me that doesn't know how to drive, but still can see the engineering marvel that this car is, and you are able to get that out of it. To me, that's just music. That's just music. It's just crazy. Yeah.
Well, maybe you need to invite some of them to drive your car when it's ready.
Yeah, no, I would love to. Definitely. And I would love for many of them to, there's even I think something that's a little bit part of where Lance is going with the ARA is that you should be able to come over here and rent the car. If you're a European driver, you might bring your sponsors over here, come to America, do an event, and especially with people that have good social media following. It's it is kind of the last frontier still here when it comes to rally, because we get to build these kind of really cool cars that you guys can't have back home. I mean, where else is there a Sonic with a V8 in it? I mean, it's awesome. What I mean? Those Subarus are, I mean, in a way, they were, before they started reel back the aero on them, they were probably as fast as a WRC car. I mean, they had more power.
Yeah.
There before they went hybrid with them, and it just the kind of cars you see here. I mean, I would include James Burke Escort in that, and there's some other guy. There's one really cool team here that running Lexus IS 300s.
Yeah.
And they're really good and really fast, and they sound great, and they're doing great, and they seem like they're multiplying. Each event there's another one.
Yeah, I think that's one of the interesting things, isn't it? Because the US market, you don't have access. If you're in Europe and you want to build a rally car, you would start with an Opel or a Ford, or there's lots and lots of cars to choose from. And they have lots of rally parts, don't they? But if you're in the US, you don't have access to those cars. So it kind of forces people to think outside the box a little bit, doesn't it? Which means you get these really interesting builds that you just wouldn't get in Europe, because
and the fact the rules allow it, and they allow us to build those kind of cars that couldn't be built anywhere else in the world, and obviously it works, and obviously they have been, and I work a lot with the technical guys at ARA, of course, and the safety is obviously a big thing for us. And I can say our cars will have the ARC2 car will have a FIA certified cage based on the latest certification from FIA's latest rules. Not the double hoop running one car, but the latest in for other cars. So it will have that, and we will offer the side impact protection system as an option. I mean, I haven't decided. I might even make it mandatory, and just like, no, your car is going to have that, because side impact is the worst in a rally car.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
a movable object at a very limited surface area, that makes it, that's as bad as it gets. When I've been crashing cars for years here, road cars, tennis cars, so I know.
Yeah. Okay, great.
This one. So we obviously, safety is something we are not cutting corners on with our cars, and we never cut corners on any cars we built. I think that's the first thing you gotta consider, and then you can become kind of experimental with other stuff. but
Yeah, I think
definitely not one
I
of them.
think rallying remains unique in that it's, from a safety perspective, it is one of the toughest sports, isn't it? Where there's
Yeah,
very little margin for error.
yeah, exactly. And in a way, I tell everybody here, my road racing guys, I say, if you go off the road in a rally car, you don't end up in a tire barrier or in a sand pit, and somebody will kind of come immediately and with a fire extinguisher running up to you. Now you end up in somebody's front yard, or even worse, in their house, in a barn. But you end up into the woods, and it's the old saying, a road racing guy, he get to see the same turn 100 times. The rally driver, he gets to see 100 turn one time. And you
Yeah.
gotta. And when I explain to them, like I show them a video here, of a rally car going fast, and then they say, how many times do they get to practice? I mean, no, they don't. You drive, one time in a road car in normal speed, and you make your notes, and this is what happened next, what you just saw there. So they say, so this guy has only been down there once in a road car? Yeah, except if he drove it last year, he might have driven the same road. And it seems like a lot of those guys have very good road memory. But yeah, essentially, yeah, that's it. And they're like, oh my God. And what happened if it starts raining? We turn the windshield wipers on.
Yeah.
What happened if it starts snowing? We put snow tires on. I mean, and we've been there. Where you go to a gravel rally and we have to send somebody back home to get the snow tires because all of a sudden we didn't think it was going to be a snow rally. That has happened. I mean, we've been there. It's just that's rally for you. I mean, that's what makes it what it is.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what makes it so unique, isn't it? And for you guys designing and building the cars, that's as we talked about near the top, that's part of the challenge, isn't it? It's a unique compromise of balancing safety and performance and durability, and probably nothing else apart from maybe Dakar and things like that. It's the only that's like that, isn't it?
Yeah, but there's not a lot of trees in Dakar, so
that is true. Yeah, just lots of sand.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we'll wrap this one up there. Thank you so much for your time, Johan. It's been really great to talk to you and hear more. I'm really excited to see the first cars.
Yeah, no, we are.
See how they get on. And
I want to invite. I want you to. I don't know if you're traveling. If you're ever in America, you need to come and see us here in Braselton, Georgia. You can. We have the big Panos Museum here with all the Indy cars and Le Mans cars and some road cars and some really cool stuff. And then you get to see the progress on this car, and depending when you're coming, you might even get a ride in it.
Oh, that would be fantastic. Well, I do have family in Georgia, so maybe I can.
Oh, you do? Okay, there you go.
That could be all the excuse I need.
You need to make sure you get invited to the Thanksgiving dinner here. That's a big deal in Georgia. So yeah, that would be good timing also, maybe. So
okay, I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah, that's that. And then anytime you want to check back in with us, just shoot me an email and we'll do it all over again. And at some point we can do it where I'm sitting out in the shop next to the car, or where I go through more of the technical details in the computer and in all the different simulation software we have access to here. I'll show you around the car.
That definitely sounds like a good follow-up video to me.
Yeah. Again.
Okay, well, thank you for your time. Thank you, everyone, for watching as well. I hope you enjoyed this little insight into the project. So,
it was very nice speaking to you, and I can see we share the passion.
Yes, I think we share a lot of common ground when it comes to rallying.
Yeah, for sure.
So there we have it. Big thank you to Johan Ragnarsson from JRD Motorsport for his insight into the new ARC2 project. Very interesting indeed. Nice to see these developments in the US rally scene. a fantastic project, I think, and it's great to see that innovation and someone trying to create a car that will help suit and meet the needs of customers in a market where it is not easy to get your hands on Rally 2 machinery. So very, very interesting indeed. As always, make sure you follow me over on socials and do hit that like and subscribe button. I fell over my words there, and I will see you again in the next video.